We have quorum.
Okay, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to July 7th. City Council pushed back from July 6th. We had technical difficulties, but here we are. Public input is short because we don't have a public here today, but we do have a letter from one of our citizens, Mark Warwick.
Before we skip to public input, I do have some agenda adjustments.
Okay,
The presentation on the Powerhouse purchase will be pushed back to August 3rd. Mr. Van Wert is not ready to make his presentation.
Okay.
He appreciates your patience. Also, in the old business, the swearing in of the judge, that will not happen tonight because it has already happened.
good.
Other than that, all good to go.
Okay. Public input for Mark Warwick.
Now, this letter is from Mark Warwick, 215 Fifth Avenue. The egregious display of illegal fireworks that occurred in town on Saturday night is a prime example of why several citizens, myself included, have come before council in the past year asking for this issue to be addressed. The sheer number of illegal mortars shot off in the downtown core and beyond was unprecedented in my memory. A walkthrough of the post office and library area Sunday morning revealed an absolute mess of debris everywhere, most of which will never be cleaned up. This pyrotechnic debris will lay there until the first good rainfall, washing into the city's storm drain system and ultimately the Rogue River. I would like to remind the city of Gold Hill has a surface water management program, SWMP, designed to help mitigate runoff pollution and improve water quality in the Rogue River. Given that, I have contacted Oregon DEQ requesting clarification on how an event like this impacts the city's SWMP. I have also contacted the Oregon Department of Transportation regarding the legality of igniting fireworks, legal or otherwise, in a state highway right-of-way. Lastly, I've contacted the Jackson County Sheriff's Office regarding the perceived lack of law enforcement regarding what went on well past midnight on July 4th. I want to stress that none of the contacts I've made were done in the form of a complaint, but as a request for information I can forward to council in order to address this issue moving forward. State law already exists prohibiting the majority of what was witnessed Saturday night, which is a Class B misdemeanor with fines up to $2,500 per violation, along with a civil penalty up to $500. At a minimum, the city needs to seek to aggressively enforce state law before someone is injured or a serious fire is started damaging public or private property.
Rah, rah, rah.
And the other
Somebody's
thing
speaking up.
that strikes me about that is fire risk.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest part. That's the scariest part of it. You know, fortunately, we've had a damp summer and spring so far. And, you know, nothing horrible happened. But all it takes is one of those things hitting that hillside there, and we're in another paradise. It's got to stop. It's got to do something.
Jessica, I have a question. Did we contact the sheriff's office as far as enforcement of current fireworks law before the 4th of July? If I remember correctly, you'd already contacted them about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Sheriff's Department was spread extremely thin for
Yeah.
the 4th of July. I have also, you know, we had talked about this before the 4th of July, about putting an ordinance into place. Well, I have been doing research into that, and technically, we already have an ordinance into place. In our code book, it says that we follow the Oregon fireworks law. So all of those things that happened, they're already illegal in our city.
But
So,
if we
yeah.
can enforce it.
And yeah, and I had a long
People
call.
know that.
I had a long call with the fire department in Medford about what they do there, and that's what he said. You can write all the laws you want, but ultimately it comes down to enforcement, and it's really hard to enforce.
I wonder if we next year anticipate a little more, hopefully things will be settled more next year, but do more of an education campaign. I mean, you know, do a big insert on, you know, with the newsletter and you know, talk about the risk to
Yeah.
having a huge wildfire.
Carrot
here
and
from that.
stick. Now that we have code enforcement and a court, I
And-
mean,
and
we
so,
start
yeah.
letting people know ahead of time.
Right.
And I'm sure there are plenty of people in this town who know the addresses of the places that are the worst offenders, and we can go to those people and tell them right up front, we're watching you, we will be citing you.
I think some proactive stuff, that
I
we should
think-
just get that on the calendar now.
The other thing that I was considering is, so early spring, we do a Gold Hill cleanup. And I was thinking that maybe, because here's the thing, even if we do get enforcement, whatnot, we're still gonna have people doing this. And so maybe we get the community together on July 5th, we get some brooms, we get some bags, we go out there and we proactively clean it up, knowing they're gonna do it. And regardless of whether or not they get fined, the debris is still going to be there. So if we have a community-wide effort to clean up, to prevent it from getting into our storm drains, that might be another proactive thing to do to keep our town clean.
On Monday, I also did send the guys down there to do some cleanup.
Good. So his concern about it going into the Rogue River.
It is a
It's
valid
real.
concern. I mean,
It's valid.
yeah.
And the other thing that strikes me is maybe we can kind of kickstart a new habit of let's do fireworks on New Year's. If we want to do fireworks, let's do it when there's snow around.
You still have the noise issue.
They do them on New Year's too, though.
Well,
I lost a dog.
They
on
do.
New Year's fireworks.
Oh,
Yeah, it's-
Or gunshots.
I wasn't expecting it, and let the dog out, somebody down the street just blew something off, and my dog bolted, ran off a cliff and broke his back, and I had to put him down on New Year's. Yeah, best dog I ever had. You know, I just don't think there's ever a good time for fireworks. I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, there's less fire risk, obviously. But I just don't think we should encourage it at all. I mean, we don't want to be a place where it's cool to go on New Year's and blow them off, and then why not 4th of July again the next year, you know?
does that mean we don't celebrate? I mean,
Well, you can celebrate without fireworks.
you certainly can, but historically we use fireworks and the Chinese have been doing it for millennia.
Yeah, and we weren't living so packed together in little communities that are already at risk because of global warming from tinder dry
I think
hillsides.
my issue with the New Year's thing, Brad, is that because there's snow on the ground, cleanup is going to be made harder from the debris, and we won't be able to clean it up until the snow is gone, and then it's going to run off into the sewer drains with the snow melt. So that would really be my worry about moving a celebration like that to New Year's. It would make cleanup harder.
okay. So I want to remind everybody that this is a public input.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to add this to an agenda later time or task me to do something about it, we can do that and then move on to the next item.
I think, can we task you to to prompt the city council, maybe in next spring, to start an education campaign?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's all the public input, right?
That's all we've got, yes.
Public hearing, none's presentation, the powerhouse purchase is pushed back. Staff reports, city manager, software upgrade.
So I thought I was going to have much worse news to tell you, but things have looked up in the last couple of days. We made the transition to the new software. The old software is dead. We had some slight hiccups in getting the bills out. We did the meter reads on time, but then inputting them into the software was a little more, I don't know, it was a lot of work. But we finished it today. So we got the bills submitted. So you should see them in your mailbox in the next couple of days. I don't know how long it's going to take. We're using a new, instead of us stuffing and folding and stamping the envelopes now, I just upload the file and they all get mailed out to you. So they're coming from a different place. The newsletter won't be on the back anymore. It'll be a separate page. That's really the only difference. The bills will look slightly different, but they still basically have the same format that they did before. So today I uploaded them, and we'll see. I live here too, so I'll find out when I get my bill, and we'll see how long it takes for them to get here. I've already put in the newsletter that all late fees will be waived this month. It's not your fault we got the bills out late.
Well done.
So they are out now. So
Jessica, for the record, can you please let our streaming community know that we are not associated with Doxo with this new
Oh.
software?
Right. We found out about this third-party company that has been soliciting people in this city. They say, we'll pay your bill for you, and so you set up with them and they charge you a fee, and they take the money out of your bank account, and then they cut us a paper check. But they're charging you a fee to do that. We have nothing to do with that company. It's free to pay your bill. If you go to any website to pay your bill and it asks you for a fee, it's not us. And, oh, that reminds me, I should talk about the credit cards. So part of our new software system is a new credit card company. If you have been paying your bill online in the past, you will have to re-register your new account with the new software company. However, it is not up yet. So right now, we do not have the ability to take credit card payments of any kind. However, once it is up, you will be able to pay everything online with your credit card that you've never been able to before. Your business license, your yard sale permits, your fees if you get fined in the courts. What other things do people pay? Your zoning permits if you want to do something to your house, your fence permit. Whatever you need to pay, you will be able to pay it online. You don't even have to go to the website. You can pay it through a text on your phone. You don't have to log into your account to pay your water bill. You can just click a link. There's so many different ways to pay. There will be a lot more information coming out about that once it's up and running. So we're moving forward. Yeah.
And of course, the net is that Jessica and Dwayne are going to be able to do more with less effort because the machine is doing a bunch of these menial tasks.
Oh, yeah. It took a lot of hours to get the bills out every month, and now I just click complete and upload a file.
It's a brave new world.
So you said the inputting was the bill, you'll never have to do that again, was that?
Well, we
previous
still
stuff?
have to go out and manually do meter reads and then manually type them in. I have mentioned before, there is this device we can get that works with our software. It's only about $3,000, and it uploads the previous reads in there, and then our meter reader just walks down. If he gets an error, it tells him right then and there, hey, that was a weird read, you better look again. Then when he comes back, we just plug it in, and it's done. And so then we just upload the file. There's nothing else to it. I'm sure we'll still go through and do a manual check because that's how we catch our rereads where that number doesn't look right.
Mhm.
But this device should cut down on the number of those. We'll see.
How many hours do you think it takes to input that without that device?
Oh, well, it takes our meter reader a week to read all of the meters. And then
Right.
it takes us at least a day's worth of time to enter them all and to check them all and look for weird readings.
So 8 hours?
That's just for
Not
that
the
part
but
of it.
The meter
Yeah.
reader with the new device would still have to read the meter.
Yeah, he'd still have to go manually
Still have to
read the
go-
meter.
right.
Yeah.
So what it saves is that 8 hours of input.
Well, it's not that part that it saves. It's, in addition to that, we have to get all of our envelopes, we have to stamp our address on them, we have to put an actual physical stamp on them.
Okay.
We have to print all the bills, then we have to put them back in the copier and reprint them to put the newsletters on them. Then we have to run them all through the folder, then we have to manually stuff and seal
Okay,
each.
so how much time does
Yeah,
all of that
all of it
take?
together, if you include the meter reads, it takes a week.
40 hours.
So, yeah.
Well, don't include the meter read. 'cause you
So
still
not
have to do
including
that.
the meter
So
read,
32 hours.
it usually takes, no, I'd say 2.5 days. So 8, 16, 24
Okay,
hours.
and then the
Yeah.
cost of labor to do that,
Right.
that 3,000 device will pay for itself pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you need authorization to buy that? Do we,
If you'd like me to, I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I'd like to get authorization for us spend $3,000 on something.
Is there room in the budget for that?
Well, so there is room in the budget. If I were to pursue this plan instead of, because we don't have money to buy all new meters for everybody in town, I would like to pair this with the numbers for getting at least enough new meters to replace all the broken ones in town. Like I said, it's approximately 50. I don't have a full count yet. That would probably cover all of the money that we set aside for meter upgrades for the year. But when I finish running all the total numbers, I'll present it all to you as a package.
Okay.
If you think that's something worth pursuing, then I will finish putting those numbers together.
Yeah, if
Okay?
you could put a package together for maybe next meeting, I think that would be great.
Okay.
$3,000, that's money well spent. I say sooner better.
yeah, I mean, in the long run, it's gonna save, payroll time, or,
Yeah.
employee.
The only downfall to this is that when we do finally upgrade to radio reads or whatever, that it may
It's
not.
obsolete already.
It may be obsolete, right. But we don't have the money to do that this year and probably not next year, so we'll get our money's worth out of it.
And I'll make the argument that that's one thing that City Hall here in Gold Hill, I feel has been lax on in the past is technology upgrades, software upgrades, things like that. Things become obsolete. And just because we can't get the best new fanciest thing today doesn't mean that we shouldn't get the second tier down and use 20-year-old technology.
Or in this case, spend $3,000 and get 2 years worth of
Yep.
saved man hours, worker bee hours.
Okay, I'll have that for you the next meeting.
What, you mentioned 50 meters that are broken out.
Approximately.
Out of how many?
They're
About
560.
10%.
Yeah.
And how do we bill those people now?
So those people don't get charged consumption. However, the majority of your bill is the base
Base
rate.
rate, okay.
The
So
consumption
it's not-
usually ends up being like $5 on
Okay.
average, so it's still costing us money, but, I mean, I can't charge consumption if
They're
I
not
don't know
paying
how much you
nothing.
use.
Okay,
Yeah, they're not
right.
paying nothing.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for our city manager? Proclamations, none. Resolutions. We have a resolution for scheduling the biennial election of officers.
So, this resolution is not required by our charter. Some cities do require a resolution to put an election on the ballot. I did this with the last election, and I want to continue doing it because I think it's very concise. It's a good thing to give to the county, and it spells out everything we want to accomplish with the next election. So I'm going to read the resolution onto the record. Whereas the Gold Hill City Charter provides that each biennial general election, 3 councilmen shall be elected, each for a term of 4 years, and a mayor shall be elected for a term of 2 years. And whereas Ordinance 8903 provides that the municipal judge shall be elected in the general election of each numbered year evenly divisible by the number 4. And whereas the next biennial general election is scheduled for November 3rd, 2020. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Gold Hill, Oregon as follows. Section 1, the biennial election of the City of Gold Hill, Oregon shall be held concurrently with the general election of the State of Oregon on November 3rd, 2020, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, at which election the city shall elect 3 council members at large, 1 mayor, and 1 municipal judge. Section 2, the precincts and judges and clerks of election shall be the same as those provided within the City of Gold Hill, Oregon for the statewide general election held on the same date. Section 3, the city recorder is hereby authorized and directed to give notice of said election at least 10 days prior to the election by posting notice thereof in a conspicuous place in the City Hall and in one public place in each voting precinct of the city. The notice shall state the officers to be elected, the ballot title of each measure to be voted upon, and the time and place of the election. Section 4, all candidates for the offices mentioned in Section 1 above shall file their certificates or petitions of nomination with the city recorder during normal business hours between Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020, and Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. And that is the resolution.
Something the judge that we just brought in has to run for the judge position?
She does, and she got a packet yesterday. That is something weird that we've never run into before since we haven't had a judge in a while. You know, something that some cities do is they either give you the option of doing the signature pages like we do, or paying a fee instead. We don't have that option here. Therefore, even though the judge is not required to live in city limits in order to run for office, she still is required to collect signatures of the residents in Gold Hill. So you'll see her out there, and I guess anybody else if they want to run for it too.
So there's no conflict with us signing hers?
No, because it's another position.
Right.
Like you can
And-
sign for the mayor, a councilman, and the judge, but you can't sign for 2 council people.
Okay, we have a resolution, we have a motion.
I will move to adopt the resolution scheduling biannual election of Gold Hill City officers on November 3rd, 2020.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seems like a good idea, kind of keep it structured and consistent. No one? Let's have the roll call, please.
Counselor Hinckley,
Yes.
Counselor Wilson,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Bishad.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do you want me to do Palmer?
Oh, right. Counselor Palmer.
Yes.
Motion still passes.
Okay, good. Approval of city council meeting minutes from the 15th of June. That's in section 10. Is there a motion to pass those meetings as written, or minutes as written?
I'll make a motion to approve the city council meetings for June 15th, 2020.
I'll second.
Discussion. Any errors, anything we need to change there? Anyone else? Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Counselor Wilson.
Yes.
Counselor Palmer.
Yes.
Counselor Rigney.
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley.
Yes.
Counselor Bishad.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Old business, appointment to fill mayoral vacancy.
Okay, so as you know, we have been asking the community if they want to fill out an application to be considered for the position of the open mayor position. We had one. I've given all the counselors a copy of her qualifications. And the other option is to vote for our mayor pro tem to continue on as mayor. According to our charter, the mayor is chosen by a majority of the council, so if anybody wants to make a motion for either of these people, or if you want to have discussion about the choices before you, and then make a motion. At some point, make a motion and pick one of the people.
Who is that person?
Oh, it's Deb West.
I'll make a motion to, well, how do you word it?
I guess to nominate?
To
Think about
nominate
it.
Brad Studebaker to fill the open mayor position.
I'll second the nomination.
It's been moved and seconded. Conversation.
I personally would like to consider Deb West, and my argument here is that a city council position is a voting position. The mayoral position is not a voting position, it's a tiebreaker position. And Councilor Studebaker was voted in by the people to have a vote. And I would hate to lose that voting seat that was voted for by the people of Gold Hill in order to move him into a tiebreaker position rather than having a consistent vote on the floor. I think that a counselor position within the city of Gold Hill has much more power than the mayoral position. And I would really hate to have an open council seat that then needs to be appointed to. Because essentially what we do is we move Councilor Studebaker into mayoral seat. We have an open council seat, which our charter then says we have to appoint to, and now we're appointing to a voting.
Technically, the charter says that the vacancy shall be filled by appointment, but it doesn't say that we have to do that.
Well, this is a discussion that we've had repeatedly, is does the phrasing shall mean will, that you will? And that's a legal term that I know we've had discussions about repeatedly when we've had counselors step down. I've always read it to mean, and that was the argument before why we were appointing counselors, was because the legal wording said, you will do this. This was an argument that our previous Mayor Newport made when we had half of the council, that we had to appoint. And so that's really where I come in on this, is that I would rather see Councilor Studebaker retain his voting position.
And I will speak on the opposite side and say Deb was part of this council and never showed up to meetings, very rarely showed up to meetings, and then resigned from the council.
And I will speak to that point. Deb West at that point had her child die. She had a death of a child that was a disabled child that relied on her his entire life. He passed away suddenly, and then she needed to take some time to grieve and decided to step back from the council in order to do that, so that she was not consistently missing meetings anymore, in order to take personal time to handle that. Deb West has since talked to me about it, and she said that she feels that she is in a position that she would like to return to the council.
What, oh, right.
It just seems that we have two choices here. We could keep Brad as pro tem mayor and appoint Deb city councilor. Or we could keep Brad as city councilor and appoint Deb.
We could vote to appoint Deb, that doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, I would totally agree that we have to vote, but that seems to me the two pathways we have here.
Is that what we're looking at here?
No, I mean, only if she chooses to run for the, or
Yeah, if
Apply
we
for the
decide
council seat.
tonight to appoint Brad, then we would then reopen nominations for the empty council seat, which she may or may not choose to apply for. But anyone else can too.
Danielle, I like your point that Brad was elected as a, you know, a voting member and
I like that too. I agree.
as mayor now. The politics of it, I don't get because I don't know her and I don't, you know, I don't particularly care. And just, we're 6 people, 7 people, or 8 people, and we'll throw Tony in and we gotta get along and we gotta get a job done. The best way we do it, I'm unclear on it as far as, well, what our legal position is, what we shall do is what we're gonna do. So, I would have to, I actually gotta look at this a little more, maybe talk to Deb West
Yeah.
about maybe?
can we postpone them?
We can postpone it, and in the meantime, I can check with our attorney and see what shall actually means.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going with shall as like, you know, shall not be infringed or shall be infringed, shall not, you know, it's, you will not do. Yeah, that's an easy one, but, I'm all for getting a little more info on this whole process here. And before we make any, you know, a serious move. I think it's a pretty serious move appointing to somebody to a council, you know, as opposed to the voting thing. And again, Brad, you know, what do you think you're more valuable as? In which position do you feel better at?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna be involved either way, right? I guess a question I have, this is a surprise to me. I haven't seen Deb since she stepped down.
Yeah.
If she's in a position to lead the process, and we've got quite a few things in the works, she's gonna come in and not knowing anything about what's going on. So that's, I think, a significant negative.
I
You know,
think
as
that's
far
true,
as
but
vote-
we have to appoint to
I do
replace
too.
you.
What's that?
That would be the same situation of any city councilor that came in. that
Sure, but
we
she's
had
not
to-
leading the charge. She
Appoint.
has no idea of what's gone on in the past and where we are on various initiatives that we're working on. As far as voting or not voting, I don't know that that's a huge difference, but, you know, I'll go with the will of the council, obviously.
So shall we push this to the next meeting then?
We shall.
And maybe we can have Deb come and give us her spiel, kind of talk to us why you'd be a good one for us.
Okay.
Now, along with that, I would like to ask, do we want to extend the deadline? and
For any
leave it
other
open
applicants?
For any other applicants that may want to come in, because really, we had 3 weeks that we had left this process open for. So do we then also want to leave the application process open for anybody else that may want to continue?
I
Or
would think
choose?
so.
Yeah, I mean, this was the deadline,
Yeah.
and one person
Okay.
applied, so that's where we are. And yeah, it is kind of, if you'd have maybe had time to think about it before, but you're just hearing about it now, so I understand you want to wait another couple of weeks. And I will talk to her about getting here before you to talk about why she wants it.
Great.
So do you want to, I don't,
So did we have a second?
we did have a second, so I don't know if you want to take the vote or if you, I don't know how you kill a motion.
So we
Sorry.
we can table it or we can vote. We have a
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
motion and a
change my
second.
motion to tabling it to the August 3rd meeting
Okay.
and do that.
Yep.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on that? So we have a motion to table this conversation for another couple of weeks till our next council meeting, which point we'll hear from Deb.
So you said August 3rd, and you're saying next council meeting.
Which is
It's
August 3rd.
so we're
Well,
not
you know,
gonna
it
go to
depends.
July?
Later on in the agenda tonight, we're going to discuss going to monthly meetings, so we'll just say till the next monthly,
Okay, till the next-
till the next council meeting. Yep.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Those in favor of tabling it?
Roll call.
Okay. Counselor Beachide,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Wilson,
Yes.
Counselor Palmer,
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
motion passes.
Tabled until next meeting. Swearing in municipal court judge Jen Zametti. So that was done yesterday, so we're covered on that. Wastewater master plan review update.
Okay. Let me find my notes.
And by the way, on Jen Zametti, we have our first court date scheduled for July 15th. So we're up and ready to go, and keep our eyes and ears open for things to pass on to our enforcement officer.
While we're on, Jen, can you please coordinate when would be a good time for her to discuss her web page on the
Oh,
site
yeah.
and how she wants that structured? Just let her know I'm open whenever it is that she has time to discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Wastewater master plan.
So, when we last left off in the soap opera, we were looking for a peer review. It was also brought up during this discussion that in a previous council meeting, the council had voted to reopen the bid for an engineer of record. So I went back and I found it. It was true. On April 15th last year, the council did indeed vote to look for a new engineer of record. So I have a couple of suggestions. Since that is the will of the council already, and this peer review is going to cost us money which we did not budget for, I would like to suggest that rather than waste our time with the peer review, we just go ahead and take bids for a new engineer of record who will then conduct the pre-design phase of our master plan, which is the next phase we're required to commit to by the DEQ. Part of that phase will include coming up with the cost for the project, so you will be able to see actual numbers. And the second part of that is after other things, if we decide to go ahead and do that, we can't really go into pre-design unless we make a choice. And we can have whatever work sessions you want to have to talk about the choices. I have a few things I want to say about this. Well, what I was thinking was that whether we build the pipeline or whether we do a new plant or refurbish the old plant, which were the three options that we had narrowed it down to, either way would require us to be annexed into RVSS. I know that the reason a lot of people were for the pipeline was because they wanted to wash their hands of sewer treatment. We have such a poor track record with running our own plant. Let's just pipe it out of here and be done with it. However, if we were to have a new plant, we would also have to be annexed into RVSS. They've made it clear they don't want to continue on a contractual basis. They would prefer to just do the annexation like they do everywhere else that they work. So that being said, either way would get us out of the sewer business. So why not pick the cheapest option? Because all of this is going to cost us a lot of money. And either refurbing or building a new plant is at a minimum like $2.5 million cheaper than the pipeline. So those are just some things I'm laying out there for your consideration. Ultimately, it's up to you. If you still want to pursue this peer review and stay with our current engineer of record. However, the council has already voted to open up new bids. I don't know why it was never followed through on, but it was never followed through on. But I think it's obvious everyone has a bad taste in their mouth, and this is a way that we can all just move forward. So.
And our previous engineer can be part of this bidding process, right? They can
Yeah.
still throw in their name into the hat.
They absolutely
give us
can.
their argument.
You were saying, those three choices, either, any of those choices, we still need to do, we would need to do what? Join,
Annex into RVSS.
annex into,
So in other words, RVSS, Rogue Valley Sewage Services,
okay.
then
Yeah.
has possession and that becomes theirs.
Now-
So whatever we leave to them, it's not ours. So if we spend 20 million or 10 million, it's someone else's property. To the point that,
But we still pay for it.
yeah, but we still pay for it. So let's,
The other option, we
But we
don't
gotta
have
do-
to annex into RVSS. That's just something to consider. It's probably the way we'll go, but we could go back into the wastewater business and hire our own operator again. That's always an option out there too. Honestly, I think that decision isn't, we should pick an option first, and as part of that option, the numbers will come up that we can see what works best for us as far as who's going to actually run the plant and how that happens. The first thing we need to do is actually pick project. Who's going to run it is kind of secondary.
I think that with the latter two options of refurbishing our plant or doing a new plant, those who's going to run it is a secondary option. But by choosing the pipeline, I would like to make it very clear, we are then saying we are for being annexed into RVSS because that's where the pipeline will go.
We will have to annex into RVSS if we choose the pipeline. The other thing too that we had talked before about how this would affect our state revenue sharing. As you recall, on that last resolution we signed, we were required to provide at least 4 services to our residents in order to participate in that. By annexing into RVSS, we would lose our 5th one, and that would bring us down to 4, so we would be right at the line. We would still be eligible. It's kind of a thin line to walk, but we would still be eligible.
Because we have the court now, so that's the fourth.
That's not one of the ones that's required by
not.
the state, no.
So what are the 4?
Oh, there's more than 4. That's just all we
Right,
would
but
be
the 4 that
providing.
we would have would be-
It's utility services,
Streets.
stormwater, a sewer system, and
police,
Streets?
fire.
I think it was.
it's police, which we're meeting with the sheriff's contract. Yep.
So we qualify for police because of the sheriff's contract?
Yes,
Okay.
it doesn't matter how we
Don't
provide
matter,
it.
okay,
It's,
okay.
yeah. Same with the sewer, we provide it even though it's contracted out. Same with the water. We provide it even though it's contracted out.
Streets isn't one of them?
I think streets is one of
I
them.
think so too.
Yeah.
I saw that. Okay.
We have a total of 5. We meet 5 of, there's like 9 on the list, and right now we meet 5 of them.
We meet 5.
Yeah.
But if we
But if we
contract
annex into
out the
RVSS,
then
we
we'd
will
only
only
have
meet
4, and that's the
Yeah.
minimum. Mhm.
I thought the pipeline was out of the question.
The more I learn about it, the more I feel like it should be out of the question. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but no one's actually done the work to figure out whose land we need to buy. If there's any, we have to do a whole archaeological survey of all the land between here and there.
Oh,
There's a
man.
lot of work involved that hasn't been done yet at all. And it is the most expensive option. And like I said, the main reason people were considering it is because we wanted to get out of the sewer business. But there are other ways to get out of the sewer business rather than the most expensive option.
Yeah, I would think that purchasing land and doing archaeological studies, and then what if, you find out that it runs right through
We could be
a-
held up for years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we're under an MAO, so that's not, the DEQ won't like that.
And how many times does it cross that river?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
There'll be fortifications around that pipe that'd make the siege of Gettysburg look like a Boy Scout camp. It'd have to be, no, that is out of the question.
So if you'd like time to think about my options, but that's what I'm recommending, we just go ahead and pursue a new engineer of record, actually pick a project, and start working on getting it done. I want to write the letter to the DEQ requesting the extension of the MAO because I have to do that at some point, but I was waiting to actually tell them our plan so that they would, give me more consideration.
I say opening bids is a good idea. There are obviously counselors, we've discussed this numerous times, who have a very bad taste in their mouth about our current engineer of record. And I would invite Civil West to bid on that. But yeah, it's already been voted on. I don't know why it wasn't followed up on. I really wish that it had been. And I think that's my position, as opening up bids and seeing if there is even anybody else.
Yeah, you may be surprised.
Okay, I don't think we need to make a motion because you've already made that motion and passed it, so, but at this point, I can stop worrying about a peer review. We're going to proceed down this new engineer of record path.
Are we still doing the WAU?
OAWU finished their review of the plan, and they
Oh.
found it very thorough.
Okay.
Like Mayor Studebaker said, they didn't want to say anything about the numbers themselves, but they said the plan itself was very thorough and covered all of our options, and that we can feel good about making a decision based on what the plan says.
Okay.
Now, counterpoint to that, some have suggested that that organization is very good at evaluating operating plans. They've never been in the business of creating plans, building stuff. So that's not their particular strength. So that's where input from an engineering firm would be helpful to assess the validity of those numbers that we were providing.
But when we pick a new engineer and they start with the pre-design phase, they're going to be going through that
Right.
thoroughly. So
Yeah.
it's going to accomplish the same thing without us spending the money on a peer review.
And we can build that in the expectation of their pitch to us is how they would address that.
Yeah?
Yeah, good. So you can operationalize it and take care of the details and report back to us on our next
I
meeting?
absolutely will.
Good, thank you.
I don't know if I'll have an answer for that. How long would you like me to open the bid process for a new engineer? I can find out what's normally done and go with that. I don't know what's standard. But,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know what's normally done and go with that.
yeah, I don't know if it's a month or 3 months. I'll find out. And whatever it is, I'll do what's normal. I'll see how long we ran it for last time, because I have all of that paperwork, and we'll just run it for the same amount
I'm
of time.
all for making Gold Hill normal. Good luck.
I think given the DEQ's timeframe, 3 months seems a little long. I should be able to get it done in a month.
I would think, I don't know. I don't know how long that takes to make a bid.
I don't either, but I will find more information out, and I will let you all know.
But we'll throw it open immediately and begin that process.
Yeah.
Super, great. Anything else? Any other questions on the master plan review?
Jess, are we still going on that little tour tomorrow? Or,
Yes. The rest of you are welcome to join tomorrow at noonish. I will be giving a tour. Well, I won't be giving it. Kevin will be giving a tour of the wastewater plant, but I will be there.
So meet at the wastewater plant, meet here.
Well, and that's the thing. So I'm giving the tour to a man from OAWU.
Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly what time he's going to be here, so I will call you and let you know, and you can meet me at the wastewater plant at that time.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Complicated topic, unless we're super comfortable with it, which I'm not, and I've spent a bunch of time on it. Again, no one is engineers other than Jessica. This is their bailiwick. This is probably good time invested if we can all be part of it.
I have been up there on a tour before, so I won't be able to attend, but I will say that anyone who can attend, Kevin James is extremely knowledgeable about what it is that he does, and he is always willing to answer questions. So I would definitely come prepared with questions. Kevin James is amazing up there, and I think he's been doing a really good job.
And he's run our treatment plant for a number of years. Okay, town hall in the sports park. So we have 3 town hall meetings scheduled. You can see the dates, July, August, and October. We did not do September because that's back to school chaos. But roughly the middle of these 3 months leading up, addressing what we think of as our biggest issues that we're facing. The wastewater plan, the Whitewater Park and the Olympic bid. We got some pushback from some concerned citizens about the impact of the Olympic bid. So let's give everyone an opportunity to make their voice heard, and we'll evaluate things from there. And then in October, citizen committees. I think this is going to be kind of a dog and pony. We'll probably have someone up from each of the 4 committees, talk about what they're going to do, what they're looking for, and answer questions, have a Q&A.
So I have a question. Are we gonna have enough information by July 18th to share that with the public?
Well, the wastewater master plan has been
Okay.
out
so it's
for
just- okay.
months now. Yeah, it's,
Okay. So yeah, it doesn't, what we're discussing right now doesn't really impact.
well, I mean, it's just,
Of
we can get
options and
feedback
costs.
from people who live here, which option they like. Yeah.
And we can do another meeting. I mean, I think this is the big decision we're gonna make as a body, and it will tie up our credit line for 2 generations for 40 years. USDA is 40 years, the other loans are 25 and 30, so this will have an impact for a long time. Let's get it right.
I was just thinking that maybe we need more time for the wastewater plan, and the citizen committees, seems to me like we shouldn't be waiting till October to get going on those. So I was just,
We could swap those two.
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea.
or, move the wastewater to August and the citizen committee to July, and then the whitewater to October, because nothing's really gonna happen on the whitewater thing for a while. I mean, that's,
So we were accepting, our tentative plan has been, we were accepting applications for the citizen committees through July 15th. And then at the July 20th meeting, which would be the next council meeting, we'd have a little work session before where you guys could review the applications and pick who was going to be on the committees. This Saturday falls right in the middle of that. So maybe, I don't know, we schedule the work session, I don't know. What do you think?
I just think
We could
shouldn't
move
put it
the
off to
town
October.
hall out 1 week, so it would be after the July 20th decision, and then that Saturday, all of those people that were picked could be there, so we could change the date.
But I think we do need to think about the dates here, because part of the reason for a town hall is that everyone can hear the story and maybe think about what they want to be part of. So we should make the deadline after this town
Oh.
hall.
Yeah, that's
So
a
they
good
can-
idea. Let's extend the deadline, so then people who are interested can come to the town hall and find out about the committees. Yeah,
And they can turn the crank then.
yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So we're gonna do the citizen committees in July?
So citizen goes to the top and everything drops down. So citizen committees, July, wastewater in August, water park in October.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
What is our deadline for the committees?
Well, it was the 15th.
So let's push it to a week later.
Well, I mean, we could make it the 18th. We could have applications on hand too for anybody else who showed up,
Great.
and then on the 20th we can make the decision.
So the 18th at noon, their applications are due. We'll
Yeah.
have them, they'll have had a chance to understand what is involved. We'll
Yeah.
have the apps and we can turn a crank and get them started. The important thing is we do want them to get up and running sooner rather than later. We don't want them starting in January.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's some big stuff that we're dealing with.
I was
know-
actually going to bring up the same point, that I was
Okay.
way too late to have the
Yeah,
citizen.
I think also, B City requires an annual report, and so being able to do harvest season with B City, that committee being up and running, would give us
Yeah.
time to do the annual report.
Perfect.
Okay, so.
Okay.
So the
we'll
dates
change
and
those
ti-
dates in the water bill?
That I just sent out.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I can change them up
We can
on the
put an update
website.
on the website, yeah. And I can change the version of the newsletter that goes on the website, but, yeah. Yeah, I just got that out.
Well, that's not your fault, that's our
Yeah.
fault. We're changing gears on that. Okay.
So there'll be the same time on those dates?
Yes,
We're gonna keep those same dates and
Yeah.
times, we're just gonna move the topics. Okay.
I believe when we were discussing the times, we were thinking about the heat level in August and July, and wanted to maybe make it earlier and or later in the day, so it wasn't middle of the day really super hot out.
Okay,
and we're switching between Monday and Thursday and then Saturday for the days, so that if people are on a work schedule, that prevents them hopefully.
yeah, the
with
first one is a
work it out.
Saturday, the second one is a Monday, and the third one is a Thursday.
Okay, good. Any other old business? New business, returning to monthly council meetings.
Yeah, so a couple of council members have mentioned this to me because we have finally put out all the fires. We were having meetings pretty, all the time.
Weekly.
Yeah, so it's entirely up to you. The charter only requires that we meet once a month. So if that's something you're interested in, here it is.
I guess didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
You know, my only thought is I'd rather see shorter, more frequent short meetings than long meetings that go late in the night, just
They're
because.
never short.
Well, I know, but if you only do it once a month, then they get really long, and then you know, we're tired and cranky, and, you know, it's just not really a great way to do business. I'd say, let's just, if we're gonna change that, let's just keep an eye on it, and if they
Yeah,
start getting
and
really
there's no
long-
reason why we can't just have them as needed as well. you know.
Except for public input. I mean, that used to irritate me when I was trying to keep track of city council meetings before
Yeah.
I was a member, and there were constantly new meetings, and how do you know, it was just really hard to know what was going on. So
I think for me, the model I really preferred was the once a month regular meeting, and then that opened that second Monday for a potential workshop rather than a formal meeting, so that we could have that, hey, we really need to discuss this wastewater plan. We really need to discuss this contract. Whereas if you have the two regular meetings, then you've got the in-between weeks, and then pretty soon, we're up here every week trying to get stuff done. And I think that's where the two regular meetings was really bothering me. We didn't really have time or space to do a workshop in. So.
And we frankly heard from people basically saying, I got a life, I've got a family, I'm trying to run a business. Every week is a lot, and we're losing people. This is aspirational. We would maybe have a set meeting every month, and then as we need it, we'll add a second one. But that's a good point. Long meetings are not a very good idea because, again, we lose people. No one wants to come here for 3 hours. That's why
And-
we're trying to keep these quick and to the point. And we ask people to be prepared, so when we come, we're not seeing this material for the first time. We can ask thoughtful questions. We're not asking stupid things that we should have known had we been prepared, like any board meeting. So being respectful of each other's times, and then allowing other people to maybe become part of it because they see, oh, it's not 2 or 3 meetings every month. I can cut loose for that.
You know, maybe we could do something like, I've started on the new utility bill applications collecting email addresses as well. I mean, we could start an email, hey, there's a council meeting this Monday, like notification
if you
process
want to be
as
on
well.
this list that
Yeah,
gets these
we
notifications.
could have
yeah.
a mailing list. I
Yeah.
mean, it is the future,
Easy to do,
right?
Yeah, right.
You know, I'm all about that. That I know they used to have an emailing list for the agenda
Yeah.
as well, and I know that I've had some citizens ask me about that. Can we restart the email list for emailing them the agenda?
Well, why don't you go ahead and put something on the
Okay.
website that
Yeah.
people can start submitting their email addresses, and I'll put that in the next newsletter, and we will continue collecting them as, you know, I put them on the new business license applications, I've put them on the new utility deposit applications, because we need to collect them somehow. So, yeah, go ahead and put a link on the website, and we'll start doing that. There's no reason why I can't send an email blast.
You could send the newsletter too. Did you just say that? I know we'd send the
No, but
newsletter.
I
with
could,
You
yeah.
could add the newsletter. What about people that live in the area that have concerns about Gold Hill? Okay, they don't actually live in city limits.
If they want to be on the email list,
I
anybody
think
can
we
be
should-
on the
there's-
email
I think
list.
they should
I'm
go-
not going to.
And some of them have said, you know, we used to get this newsletter, but now we don't anymore. And I said, well, it's on your water bill. And they said, well, we don't get a water bill because we're not in the city limits.
And
So I know
honestly, they
there's
don't pay
people-
my taxes, so.
Right, I know.
And also-
But they're impacted by what
Right,
we do.
they totally
They're
are.
concerned.
Yeah.
Also, Malia, if they're looking for the newsletter, Jessica and Dwayne have been really good about getting me the digital copy, and I posted up on the announcements link.
Okay.
So it's up there in
It's
a
there,
digital
okay.
copy.
Yeah.
She's gonna send it to me.
Yeah, because
or-
I just finished it moments before the
Okay.
council meeting started, so,
Yeah.
yep, it'll be up on the website tomorrow, and, yeah.
So, as long as we're discussing this, can I just throw another thing in there, kind of along the same lines, about the time, starting at 6 o'clock? Have you guys ever discussed changing that?
To
I'd say 7 o'clock. You know, it's dinner time. Hungry people get angry and angry, you know? Also, you know, people that work, you get off work at 5, it's really hard to throw dinner on the table for the kids and get to a meeting by 6, you
And
know?
who gets off at 5?
Well, right, well,
Seriously, I mean,
But,
people
you
work
know,
till 5:30. So,
sure,
yeah,
you know,
it's
so-
tough.
I would just offer the suggestion that we change it to 7 instead of 6, but.
I think that's too late, personally.
6:30?
I mean, I know that that was one of the reasons why I pushed for the streaming option, was for
Right.
those people who got off a little
Sure.
bit later. They could jump in on the stream, it's always up there, they can watch it anytime that they want.
Sure.
I personally find 6 o'clock to be an ideal time for me, because it gives me time to have dinner at home as opposed to,
I mean, after the meeting, or?
well, no, we get off at 4 at my
Okay.
house. So I'm able to have dinner at 5, get here and eat before the meeting, and I'm not starving. But it also gets me home early enough that my entire Monday night isn't taken up, because my husband does run our IT for the time being. So I'm not here until 9 o'clock at night, go home and go to sleep. So,
7 to 9 is late for some people.
That's, yeah, I think it's too late.
It seems even later during the wintertime when it gets
Yeah.
dark so early.
It seems
too.
even later when you've been in City
Yeah.
Hall all day.
True.
Yes.
Well, we claim to be a democracy, why don't we put that on a poll to our
Yeah, we
email
could,
blast?
yeah, I could do another Survey Monkey and ask people when we should have meetings. Maybe they don't even like Mondays.
yeah.
But, yeah, we could do that.
I've always found that calling anybody on a Monday is a really bad idea.
But to your point, I mean, we do, even if you can't make it at 6, now the video is online. You can go home and watch it no matter what time you get home, so. And if you want to be on the public input, you just email us and tell us ahead of time, and just like tonight, I'll read your comments. So, I mean, there's really no need for anybody to rush to be here, especially with us locked up anyway.
The other availability there as well, I know that maybe people aren't understanding what's going on there. If you email the webmaster or you email Jessica here at City Hall, we can digitally type you in to a call on the computer the same way we were doing when
Yep.
we were remoting it. So,
Lots of options.
there are lots of options, yes. Do we want to continue to consider the monthly council meetings, or?
Do we
Do
need
we
a
have to
motion?
vote on that, or just
Well,
direct you to do it, or?
I mean, it's up to you if you want to.
I'm okay with monthly meetings,
I'm
and
good
leaving
with
the other
monthly.
week open.
I do like having the other week open for work sessions, because you're right. When we have work sessions, that ends up making for either a really, really long night, or then we have to be here 3 nights in a row, so.
And I think that's part of what was making those meetings so long, instead of having just like an hour, hour and a half meeting, was that our previous mayor was combining a regular meeting and a work session, so we were ending up here for 3.5 hours. But I think having them separated, we should be able to shorten the meetings.
And is the public invited to the work sessions?
Yes, public is invited to work sessions, or as long as
To
we're
the same
on.
limitations
Yeah,
as
right,
this,
right.
yeah. But yeah,
Right.
public is invited to work sessions.
COVID.
And if we're not getting our work done, if things pile up, we'll schedule a
Yeah.
mid-month meeting.
So, okay, so then we'll have the next council meeting on August 3rd, but July 20th, I'm going to go ahead and schedule as a work session so that we can start to discuss our wastewater plan options if you want to, and to choose the citizen committee things, because we'll have had the town hall by then, and we'll have all the applications in. That way we can make a decision on who's going to be in the committees. And anything else that may come up between now and then that I'm not thinking of. But yeah, we'll go ahead and make the 20th a work session.
So we will meet on the 20th. Okay.
But as a work
Sessions.
session, not as a council meeting.
Same
Right.
time.
Same time.
And we will do a Survey Monkey to assess where people are.
And we'll see what
on
other people
6,
think about
6:30
it.
and 7
Yep.
start time.
And, you know, you may as well throw days of the week in there too, I guess.
Right. Unless the charter says it has to be Mondays. I'm not sure if it
I
does.
think
I think
that-
it just says once a month.
If I remember correctly, the charter just says that we are required once a month to have a meeting. That's,
I think that's all it says too. But I will double check.
Very good. Reopening of senior center. Well, given the infection, obviously senior centers have been reeled back, scaled back, closed in most of the valley. But we were thinking that we wanted to kind of put together a plan so that as things opened up, we're presuming that this isn't a lifetime condition of lockdown. So when we get the green light, we can have people back together. We'll have a slate of activities. Again, what we're looking for is intellectual stimulation, good nutrition, exercise at a minimum. So previously we had an exercise session. It was either chair stretching, Pilates sort of thing. We can do walks. As intellectual stimulation, we had presentations on community topics from the fire department about fire risk, and from the nurse about women's health issues, and on a variety of topics like that. And we've gotten a lot of unsolicited input from people saying, we'd like to do pottery or watercolors or something like that. So we'd love to build in more an arts and crafts element also. So if you have ideas for the scope of what we'd like to offer in the senior center. Now, the other element, of course, central to it was a good, healthy, nutritious, inexpensive meal. That's a little more complicated. We don't have a kitchen presently. We went out and tried to get some materials to build a kitchen, but there's some dollars involved. We do have a possibility of siting it back where we did previously. Again, for no cost to us.
And where's that? Sorry.
That is at the church next to the post office. Harvest Church, I believe they are called. George Wilson's the pastor. He's very easy to work with, was very supportive. He provided people there and supplies, and I thought it wasn't optimal. Of course, optimally, we'd have our own space.
Is he
But
open to it being there again?
He is, actually. I spoke with him, and he is fine with it. There were some personality issues previously, and so I think we could review that as a possibility. So let's think about it. What are the elements to it? Go or no go on food, and maybe you can just send those to me. I'll be the point person on that, and we'll put together a reopening scheme, and I'm guessing it's a few months off.
I guess I'm unclear. It was my understanding that the senior center was a project that you and Counselor Palmer were doing on your own. I guess I'm just not clear. I don't think we ever voted as a council that this was a city hall driven project. I don't remember this ever being a city hall driven project. So I'm unclear what you're wanting from City Hall for the senior center.
I guess what I'm wanting is just to make sure if people are interested in it, they let us know,
Okay,
so that it's a little bit more visible with the community.
okay.
We have about 10 to 15 people a meeting, and it frankly, my vision was a very healthy, nutritious meal, and we were getting donated materials, which oftentimes was, muffins and croissants, which if you're diabetic, that ain't great. So we weren't really providing the core nutritious food. So that makes that a little more difficult, for sure. But I think that the increased need for socialization, especially when winter comes and it's dark and gloomy and damp, is a really big positive. And so let's see what the interest level is in the community. And we'll look to reopen that in several months when the social distancing directives are modified.
Brad, are those daily meetings with the senior center? Would there be how many X amount of meals per day, per week would be required for how many people?
We'll probably do a survey monkey again, assessing the community. But I think we had it 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For 3 hours, 9 to 12, 9 to 1, something like that. We want to provide one meal, so we're basically providing lunch. And we had food and coffee, beverages for breakfast.
Right. All right.
Also, if you guys are having any kind of those special events that you were talking about that you guys were doing before, if you can let me know, and then I can put it on the community calendar.
Absolutely. We had a bunch of people lined up and they kind of got the quick cancellation, so a number of them are still very interested in being part of this. There's one lady who does feathers. She's got a bunch of displays in the Guggenheim Museum. So she's kind of a hot shot, and there's a lot of fun stuff that seniors can do with each other. And again, intellectual stimulation is super important as we get older. Exercise and physical exercise is a big part that they should be doing, and so if we can help that, I think it's a good thing. Anything else?
As far as the senior center, I did have an idea when you were talking about it before. The college, SOU, has a great music program up there.
Uh-huh.
And something that I've seen before in hospitals and things like that is a guitarist coming out and potentially maybe doing sing-alongs from the generation that is primarily being populated. I thought that might be
That's a
really
good
nice
idea.
to have somebody come out, kind of play those old-time favorites,
Yeah.
things like that, and get the seniors involved in that. I think would be fun.
Good.
Mixing the young and the old is always a good thing.
Yes. And we had some kids from the middle school that helped out with one of the programs. As you remember, we've got art provided by the middle school and the elementary school. We'd love to have that happen again. As much as we can integrate students into the town, I think it's a good thing. They are our next generation of citizenry. It's much easier to retain a customer than to attract a new one. These are our old customers that we want them to think, hey, let's buy a house in Gold Hill and live close to Mom. So again, I think as much as we can bring the two schools into activities related to town, it's a good thing. Okay, city manager report.
All right, I got a few reports for you. A while back, you tasked me with getting water permits so that we could pull water out of the river to irrigate the sports park. Well, that obviously didn't happen in time for this season. However, we were able to hook the water cannon up to metered water, and so we are watering the park. I have continued to work with the Certified Water Rights Examiner to get that permit taken care of. You new counselors may not know the history, but when the intake plant was moved further upstream, we applied for a transfer permit to move it upstream where we were pulling water out of the river. That was back in 2006, and no one ever closed out the transfer permit. So it's still been hanging open this whole time. So they're not going to let us get any more permits because we never closed out the last transfer request we got. So I've been working with the Certified Water Rights Examiner to find out the process so that we can get this done. She's just gotten back to me with the report. I'll give it to you if you want. It's a bunch of technical reading. The long and short of it is there are some steps that we can take. We'll need to close out that transfer permit and then get a new permit. Because we aren't diverting the full capacity of water that we are allowed, there shouldn't be any problem with it. I have the next steps to take. With your permission, I'd like to tell her to continue down that path and get it actually done. So that's where we are with that. Hopefully by next summer, we will be able to water the park by pulling directly from the river right there in the sports park. So we're still working on that. Either way, that is your choice, of course. We don't have to continue down that path. We could just do the first half of it, which is to close out that original transfer permit, which needs to happen either way. It was never closed out, so we could just stop right there. Once she finishes, she's working up the quote to do the whole job. I'll show it to you. If it ends up being a whole lot of money, I'll bring it back before you again. But if the whole thing in one package just makes sense to do it all, then that's how I'll proceed.
My real question on that is, so it's my understanding they're using the water cannon to treat the parks right now.
Yep.
So my question on that would be, which would be more cost effective, using the water cannon, which I understand is treated water, as opposed to the raw water, as well as the environmental impact of either one on the river? That would really be my question on that.
Yeah,
The water cannon is used both,
Right.
both from the treated or the river water.
but we are not using it from the water,
But we're
river.
not using the river water now.
Right,
because we don't have a
so,
permit.
and that's really my question, is the cost of using treated water on the
Well,
park as
luckily,
opposed to the raw water?
we're the ones who charge, I mean, you're a check
Right.
signer. We don't charge ourselves a lot for water.
Right.
So,
But my question on the environmental impact is our reservoir, our reserves that we have
Right.
up there, we're using those to then water our parks instead of using raw water.
right. Well, at this point, we don't have a choice. We're gonna end up with a
Right.
dry park if we don't. So that's where we are. I'd rather keep the parks watered. It should just be this one summer that we have to
No,
do that.
that's,
So,
that's,
yeah.
I'm talking about future permits,
Yeah.
deciding to go forward with the raw water.
It will be
permit.
better.
That I think,
Yep.
yeah.
You're right.
And
Okay.
again, the critical thing there is if we're using up some of our supply to water our plants, looks great, but if we have a fire, that puts
Yeah.
us in a pickle. And that's why we pushed down this line to get our permits in order to be able to use free water. That is not diminishing our firefighting
Right.
Yep.
reserve capacity.
Okay, so the next thing I want to tell you about, some of you already know this, that I applied for a grant with the Oregon Marine Board to put in some vault toilets in the Tillameek Falls parking lot. So far, it's been positive feedback from them. Fingers crossed. If anybody wants to write a letter of support to me saying they support those toilets, I can forward that on. They look, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a good thing if I can provide letters of support to go along with the grant application, that showing that the people actually want it.
Would it help to get citizen input on that?
Yeah, anybody that wants to, I mean, even if you just send me an email that says, hey, I go to the river there all the time on the bike path, it would be great to have toilets there. That's all I
Do you
need.
want me to put a link on the website asking people?
Well,
for-
we're kind of already up against it. If I don't get it in the next day or two,
Okay.
it's not gonna do any good. I've already gotten a few, so I do have some
Okay.
letters, but, yeah, that's where we are with that, so we'll just see how that grant application proceeds. It's my first time writing a grant, so, she told me I did a very good job for my first time.
Good,
So,
excellent.
yeah.
So in support of that, we can all dash you off an email tonight in support of
You absolutely can.
building
That would
some
be
vaulted
great.
toilets.
Jessica.simpson@cityofgoldhill.com. Vault toilets in the Tillameek Falls parking lot. The next thing is the So Ready grant, the one that we keep talking about. Tonight, I just need your consensus. I'm going to sign the intergovernmental agreement that we want to be a part of this grant process. I need to give that to them by Friday, so from all our discussion, it sounds like you all want to participate in this. So, yes, all right, I will sign that and get that off to them. That's all I have for that. There is no update on dates to give the money to the businesses. It's turning out it's a long drawn out process, so maybe in the next month or two, there will be money. But this is step one, to sign this agreement that we are participating in the process.
So we were scrambling, thinking we were up against a deadline that was literally coming in a week,
Yeah, and now
And-
it turns out,
and it was quite
Yeah.
a rat race. So.
but it is still coming.
And Soretti's going to lead the charge, so
Yeah.
the information they will communicate to the community and small businesses will be accurate, and it's a cleaner way to go.
Yep. The next thing, Ride the Rogue is a cycling event that is going to be passing through our town on September 26th. So if you have a local business, you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on it because the whole race is running right through town. They are also looking for sponsors, so if you'd like to be a sponsor for Ride the Rogue, you can go to ridetherogue.org, or you can get a hold of me and I'll tell you how to get a hold of them. But yeah,
What
they're
was
going
that
to
date
be
again?
September 26th.
Thank you.
Can you send me an email on that so that I can put it up on the website with a banner directing people to their
Yeah, sure.
website and stuff?
And so, what about the discussion about putting picnic tables and porta potties and hand washing stations downtown?
Right, so that was back when we thought the grant money was going to be given to us.
Okay.
but this money goes
So
directly to
that's-
businesses. It's
That
up to,
source is
yeah.
dried up.
Yeah.
I was just thinking for Ride the Road.
There may
do
be
they-
other grants, but,
Does Ride the Road, do they set up porta potties someplace? for
yeah,
their
they actually
riders,
set
or-
up, hydration stations too.
Okay.
She told me
Okay.
they're having to
So they
change
have-
everything because of
okay.
COVID, but yeah,
Okay.
they do supply things to their cyclists along the way.
Okay.
The last thing I want to mention, which some of you probably have noticed, Gustav and Friedenberg have been paved. They look really good.
Yes.
And they're still, they think they finished up the work on it today. Yeah,
Cool.
that's it. That's thanks to the SCA Small City Allotment Grant that we get every year. I'm already have earmarked some blocks of streets for the next round of grants. And yeah, I'm applying for that again. The other thing left from this grant is Estramato from first to second. I told you that before. We were trying to time it with ODOT's ADA ramp project because the ADA ramps have to be done. They have pushed Gold Hill's portion of that project out to the spring, but I have verified with the grant people that we will still be within our time limit to use those funds, so it's not a problem. We'll still be able to pave that street in the spring.
And
That-
our kudos to your department for getting that done. It looks really good.
It does look really good.
Those are
I go
some
out of my way to
pretty
take that
rough
street
roads.
now. I used to go around it.
This is related but off topic, so tell me to be quiet, but that house at the corner of Gustav on the highway, the big brick 2-story,
Yes.
does anybody know who bought that and who's fixing it up?
You know what? Let's address that under counselor comments.
Okay.
How does that sound?
Sure.
Yeah, good. Anything else? Okay, mayor comments. A couple of things. Again, we're right in the middle of our fire risk season. We're actually considered moderate risk now. That's good. As Malia pointed out, we've had a nice moist season so far, but that's probably not going to last long. July, August are our hottest months. So let's be smart. Keep an eye out around, talk to your neighbors if you see something that looks a little scary. Obviously, there's no open fires. I think we're in the 4-hour work period in the mornings, so you can't use anything that can spit off a spark, and it's not all day, it's just in the morning.
In relation to that, Brad, when we did the cleanup and the firefighters came out to help me get my yard debris out, they did let me know that even when they're not doing those cleanup campaigns, you can contact Fire District 3. They will bring that trailer out to your house and they will help you to remove additional yard debris at no cost to you.
It's a great program, so anyone who has a project, don't have a pickup to haul it off, we can give them a call at Fire District, and we want to thank them for helping us out with that cleanup day. Also, the other thing we want to thank them for is they did support us to re-energize our fire hydrant down in the sports park to the tune of about $3,500 or $4,000.
That was almost $5,000. Yeah.
$5,000.
They reimbursed us for the whole thing.
No way,
Thank
that's
you
Yeah.
very
awesome.
much.
Very
So
cool.
they've been great partners for us.
Cool.
Did we send them a thank you note, a letter signed by all of us, thanking them?
Yeah, no, we
Seriously,
can do that.
we should.
Yeah.
I think that would be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, they are also, in return, they are all grateful to the city of Gold Hill. These biomass bins they've been bringing out here, they said the community has just been wonderful to work with, and they really appreciate the support they've been getting from everybody.
Maybe they'd be a good recipient of a community award again at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because they have, $5,000 is real money, that helps.
It really is.
We appreciate that. COVID, or now we're calling it SARS-CoV-2 infection. So again, relax, it's all gonna be okay. The things that have come out of this, which can become really good habits going forward, wash your hands in and out of your house so you don't bring stuff back in. Wash your vectors, tables, knobs, handles, because that's where it's going to accumulate. If you have risks, wear a mask religiously and be careful, because this is something that can be a nasty infection. The good news is so far in the 5 months we've been tracking this, there's only 215 people out of 4.2 million in the state of Oregon who have died. So this is very contagious, but it's not very deadly. Okay? So it's not Ebola. 50% of the people who catch it are not going to die. We have lots of capacity in our hospitals to treat. The big concern was there'd be a big outbreak, the hospitals would be overwhelmed, and we'd have a crisis. Right now in the state of Oregon, there are 22 people on ventilators, which is the rate limiting step in the ICU. So you've got hospitalizations, admissions to ICU, people in ICU on a ventilator. So the ventilator is the final step, and there's 22 in operation. There's 799 in reserve. So we have lots of capacity. Take a breath, be smart, do what we're doing, and this too will pass. And finally, I saw a sign in Grants Pass. It's the climate.
Yeah.
We do have a great climate around here. But I'm thinking maybe a moniker for Gold Hill is it's the people. We're a small town. We've got 1,000 to 1,200 people. You can actually know your neighbors, wave to each other. So again, that's our strength. Let's get as many people as we can involved in these committees so we have input, we have ideas from everybody. We can probably make the best choices that way. We do have some choices that are going to impact things for a long time. So we want to get it as good as we can. Any other comment?
I know Malia had a comment that she
If we're
wanted to-
moving on to Counselor, if you're done, Mayor? No?
Any questions? Go ahead.
So the house that I just mentioned, the two-story brick house on the corner of Gustav and Main Street, has recently been bought apparently, and somebody's fixing up really nicely. I'm just really, really pleased. That place was such an eyesore.
He's done so much work.
And, you know, right on Main Street, you know, and I'm just so tickled that somebody is taking care of that place. If I had the money, I would have bought that place a long time ago. And I just, you know, what I'm thinking is maybe we could use that as an impetus to kind of try to get other people to kind of fix up their properties a little bit. Maybe we can give him an award and say, we're gonna have awards for people that really improve their properties, you know, that just from visually, you know,
Yeah,
something
he'd
like
definitely
that.
win the most improved award.
Yeah, definitely.
Why
You know,
don't we
so,
build that for our end of the year awards, most improved home?
Most improved home and property or something
And
like that.
agreed, that's a contractor who built that, it's a project, there's foundation issues, he's doing it right, it's gonna be beautiful. It could be a great bed and breakfast, it could be a great hotel, whatever,
All kinds of things, yeah.
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 So let's keep our thinking caps on and be thinking through how we can operationalize most improved home, but I would say let's do a thrust for maybe a couple of months talking about, we're taking nominations. If you have made a great improvement to your home, yard improvements.
You can nominate yourself, or you can nominate a neighbor. You know,
Absolutely.
They're too shy to do it themselves, and you
Right.
think somebody's just done a really great thing.
So we'll get people thinking about making their space better.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, if you have cars parked in your front yard, maybe you could move those.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
As far as counselor comments, I would like to remind people during COVID, please continue to check on your disabled, your elderly, and your homebound neighbors. Many of them are still secluded in their homes. You don't necessarily have to go knock on their door, but remember to give them a phone call, drop them an email. Many of them are alone, and they are feeling more socially isolated than the rest of us that can go into public in masks and socialize in those ways. Just remember that they're still there and they need to be checked on. During this time, we need to remember that one of the biggest killers is social isolation. Suicides are up. Depression is up. We need to remember to check on those people who don't have other outlets.
And if you can help out, do a Costco run, take an order for your neighbor, you know? Maybe help out with bringing in foods or things they need to buy and they're concerned about not going out. Anyone else?
Well, I always have the same old comment, I guess, about my neighbor, talking about cleaning things up. My next door neighbor is the city beach, and sure like to see that.
Actually, I started working on that this week. I didn't want to tell you guys about it yet because I haven't gotten very far. I found out that there was a meeting 2 years ago with ODFW, with RVCOG, with a whole bunch of agencies, and nothing ever came of it. But I, this week, got in touch with all the people who were at that meeting, and they've given me all their documentation about what we need to do to go forward. We have tentatively scheduled a beach cleanup day for November 14th, and I hope to have all of these governmental pieces in place so that on the 14th, we have our plan forward and we can do it. Because yes, we need to reclaim the beach. And I was gonna talk to the property owners who own the stretch all along the side, because some of that needs to be maintained too, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind if we maintained that, right?
I did say a long time ago when the COVID shutdowns, it would have been a perfect time to put 100 goats down there for about 2 weeks, and it'd be as clean as the moon.
Yeah, there's a problem because the whole beach is in a floodplain. There's a lot of stuff that we can't touch because it has to do, when the water is up, the fish go through there. So that's why I've had to talk to all these agencies about which portions we can touch and which we can't. And I'll give you more information about that. But yes, it is on my list.
Thank you.
So mark our calendars. Early November, maybe the 14th, we're gonna have a community-wide cleanup day. And, you know, if we have a small army, we can get an amazing amount done. One of the citizens sent me a picture of what it looked like when he moved here 5 years ago. And it looked completely different. It reminded me when I came in, that was one of the first things I saw, because I lived on the beach in Southern California for 6 years. And it reminded me of a really great little beach down in Belmont Shores.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's mostly gone. So again, the powers that be are supportive of us returning it to a usable beach. Now's our chance.
Speaking of beach park and usability, I would like to keep in everybody's mind the possibility of potentially putting a stability rope to help disabled and elderly people to get down and actually be able to use our beach park.
And maybe a bench halfway.
Yeah.
That's a long hike up for some people.
And that's probably a Parks Committee
Yep.
entry, but let's put that on the list.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks for your attention. Meeting adjourned.
Very good.
An hour and a half. It wasn't an hour,
Yeah.
but it's not 2 hours.
Yeah, but anytime you discuss anything having to do with wastewater or water